we are getting on to the Miami Dolphins. That is right. We are heading down to South Florida, to close to the home of the Stanley Cup winners there in the Florida Panthers. Let's talk about these Miami Dolphins that had an 11-6 record, same record as the division leading Buffalo Bills, although they did not win the division due to some, essentially losses to the Bills head-to-head record. And they have a win total of 9.5. So talking about some of their losses coming into the season, we've got a couple wide receivers here. Yeah, there's a lot. There is a lot.
A lot of turnover.
A couple wide receivers that kind of didn't really play. Cedric Wilson did a little bit. A couple linemen who did play, and Robert Hunt and Connor Williams. A lot on the defensive side of the ball. Van Ginkel was a good player. Christian Wilkins was one of their best players. Jerome Baker was a solid player. Xavier Howard, Deshaun Elliott is a good player. A lot of turnover there on the defensive side, but a lot that they brought in. Just really turnover city here. So OBJ looks like he's going to get another shot there. Jonnu Smith might be slotted in as tight end 1. You got Shaq Barrett coming to fill a hole that we're going to talk about at defensive end. Calais Campbell, Anthony Walker at linebacker coming over from Cleveland. Kendall Fuller, good cornerback, and Jordan Poyer, Marcus May, some starting safeties there, and rookie Chop Robinson, who we're going to talk about in a little bit here. So what are your major takeaways as we get into this Miami team?
Yeah, like we kind of already mentioned, shit ton of turnover. I think it whenever you have that big of an overhaul in terms of mostly defensive guys here, it may take them a little bit to fully gel. It may take them, a few weeks to really truly get going, but they brought in a lot of talent and in a lot of needed positions, whether that was just a need in terms of talent or because of injuries or losses. But I think the Miami Dolphins offense, not a whole lot of turnover there. They did lose a couple of offensive line pieces, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, defensively, I think they really loaded up quite nicely, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot going out, but a lot coming in, right? So, and that offense still looks like they're going to be fast as fuck, boy. All right, let's talk about some of these injuries. 2 major injuries, really, and they're to the same position. Yep. You got both your defensive ends coming off big injuries. We'll start with Bradley Chubb there. Outside linebacker, ACL tear, tore it late, December 31st. Very late. He's only got about 8 months until the season. Again, we talk about ACLs. Like to have 10 to 12 months, closer to 11, 12 months. What are we thinking with Bradley Chubb?
Yeah, it really with both of these guys, but with Chubb, he's not going to be ready week 1. He may not be ready for week 4. He may not be ready for week 6. When with this kind of a timeline, it's really tough to see. You're really plan out when they're going to come back. I think it's one of those things where does Tua get injured week 2 and their season goes to put, and it comes to week 8 and it's like we're 3-5. What
are we going to roll them out there? Yeah.
Are we going to roll people out there or not? I think it's just a really tough spot. They did bring in a couple defensive ends to put alongside Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, but with both of these injuries, timeline's not on their side.
Yeah, we'll talk about Phillips in a second, but definitely Bradley Chubb with just 8 months. I mean, we're talking about if he plays meaningful snaps by like week 8, I'll be impressed. Right? I am not expecting that at all. Yeah. So we'll see with Chubb there. Not a lot of optimism. With Jalen Phillips coming off an Achilles tear, similar recovery timelines, about 10 to 12 months, although different injuries. He injured himself late November. He's got about 9.5 months to come back from. So, he's got a little bit more time, a month and a half more. Still some concern, but how are you feeling about Phillips?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, concern, timeline's a little bit better. So I would say most likely I would look to see him week 6, maybe.
Yeah,
I think 6, I would still not probably expect him to do a whole lot the first quarter, even really the first half of the season, because they do have 2 or 3 other defensive ends there that should be able to get to the quarterback with Shaq Barrett and incoming Chop Robinson. But again, it's kind of tough with these prolonged injuries to truly tell how quickly they're rehabbing.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing here is we saw it from the injury perspective, like how it happened. Defensive ends need their calves and Achilles to push off the ball. That's how they start every single play. So this is not like he's injuring his pinky finger and he's barely going to ever use it. Like this is calf muscle. This is where he generates a lot of his lower body power. So I think this is one that, you know, you're going to have to be patient with both of these guys. And, you know, Shaq Barrett is a good player. And I'm going to talk about Chop Robinson here in a second. But, you know, 2 of your best players, your best pass rushers, proven pass rushers are looking at going to be out for a decent amount of time here. So that kind of might lead us into some of our bets kind of going forward. All right. You know, we talked about the big concerns in defensive line with the injuries. Also mentioned Christian Wilkinson. I think most people don't understand how good of a player he is at defensive tackle spot. Like he reminds me of a guy, you know, similar to Dexter Lawrence, and just is such an impact player to a team, and could just, you know, doesn't play a sexy position. So, and then also what I'll point out is the age of the secondary. So I think on paper, you know, you got Kendall Fuller, Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, who's a young player, and Jalen Ramsey, Kadir Kahu. I mean, Ramsey, Poyer, Fuller, all guys who have been good, but they're kind of getting to the ends of their careers here. So I don't know if the age is going to catch up to them, especially with a pass rush that might not be able to get home right away. So there are some concerns there on the defense for me. Any major concerns you see outside of that?
Not really. I would say, you know, offensively, like we said a little bit ago, they're going to be fast. McDaniel's going to draw up something crazy to get somebody in open field and put up some points. Defensively is going to be the question, just like it was last year. How well can they hold up? And you know, I just don't see the Miami Dolphins having much of a different season as last year. I think if anything, because of, like you said, that aging defense, some of the injuries that they do have, I just don't see them moving much, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of my big takeaways. Like, are they better? Are they a better team than last year? Offense, pretty much running it back. You know, guys are a year older, which you know, maybe an A-Chain Chase helps him, but everyone else, you know, not really, doesn't really help you to be a year older. Still really didn't address the tight end position with Jonnu Smith. You know, maybe better than Durham Smythe, but how much? Offensive line, you know, still some questions there. But the defense arguably got worse. So it's tough to project them as being a better team for next season. We're heading to the fantasy space real quick. I've got a question. Would you rather take Raheem Mostert at running back 28 around his value, or Devon A-Chain at running back 7? So would you rather take A-Chain a lot earlier or get a guy like Mostert later in the game?
I'm taking Mostert every day in the week and twice on Sunday, to be honest with you. I think A-Chain, he's a special dude. But I think he averaged like 7 yards a carry. And yes, they are expecting him to, you know, have a little bit heavier workload this year. That's not sustainable, especially when the offensive line probably got worse. You know, so I think I'm taking Raheem Mostert.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm also going to take Raheem Mostert as well. And I'll talk about him in a second, but he's just, you know, he's an older player, right? We look at him and, you know, A-Chan is just 22. I think Mostert is 32. But when you look at Raheem Mostert, he really, when you look at his career, he did not play much at all in the first, you know, 5 or 6 years of his career. It wasn't until 2018 where he really started to get, and in 2018, he only had 34 carries. You know, for most of this was the first time in his career he's got over 200 carries, and he put up over 1,000 yards. Last year, he had 181. He had 891 yards. Like, although he's been in the league for a while, he does not have a lot of that wear and tear you see with a lot of these running backs. So I think a lot of people are just looking at the age thing, and people love explosive players, especially the fantasy community. They just see a guy and they're like, oh, he's going to be the best. Achane has not shown he can stay healthy yet, so we'll see
Yeah.
how that goes.
Well,
I got some injury concerns, and I just think even when Achane was healthy, Mostert still got carries. I think
and I think part of that's like McDaniel's offense it's so complex. You know, there's so many moving pieces. They're constantly putting people in motion and things. As a vet, Raheem Mostert can figure that out much quicker and be able to grasp that playbook probably better than Achane at this point in his career. And like we said, Mostert doesn't have that wear and tear on his body. He carried the bulk of the carries last year. I'm taking him, 2 or 3 rounds later than Achane. And probably seeing very similar production wise.
Yeah, you could get him probably 4 or 5 rounds later.
Yeah,
28. So I agree with you. I'm glad we're on the same page there. The other thing, real quick, it's the question of who's their third target going to be. Last year, it was very much, Hill and Waddle, and then Durham Smythe had like 400 yards. He was their third target.
Yeah.
You go into the year with OBJ at wide receiver 90, Jonnu Smith at tight end 25, and Durham Smythe not even on the board. So, it's tough as far as who's really going to get a lot of targets. They use the running backs a lot. I don't think OBJ is going to really, I don't think he's going to have a terrible year, but I can't really see him having anything really worth something in fantasy. And then Jonnu Smith is interesting. I don't really know if I don't see if I project him as a tight end 1. Again, Durham Smythe was their third leading receiver last year. Are they going to be splitting time? I know a lot of people are just penciling in Jonnu Smith to just take over, but I don't know how true that is based on how Smythe did. Smythe had actually some good connections with Tua. He paid out pretty nice on his alt receiving a couple times last year. So we'll see, but something you want to monitor in training camp and kind of look to see who that third target's going to be. Yep. All right, we're going to head over to some actionable stuff, some best bets. Is it my turn, your turn? Who goes first here?
I think it's your turn.
All right. I'm going to lead us off here. Raheem Mostert, over 705 rushing yards. We just talked about him. He's hit this his last 2 years. He's only been playing really his last 6 years, and this was his first year with over 200 carries, and he just had 209. I think both of Achane and Mostert are going to get a lot of carries. I think Mostert is going to be a guy who's going to be more reliable. I think, and he's still got some speed. Don't discredit Mostert. He's no Devon Achane, but he will run between the tackles, and he can bust one if there is a hole available. So I like Mostert to hit his over. I also like the Dolphins to miss the playoffs at plus 130. We talked about how this is a 3-horse race. I just think they're the one. I just think they're the one that falls out there. I think Buffalo and the Jets are a better team than them. I think that defense has the potential to be a little leaky this year, which may be good for fantasy for the offense. But I think that defense, with the lack of a pass rush, may have some trouble. Now, I will say this market, at least I can't see it in Virginia, but this market hasn't come out yet, I don't think. But Chop Robinson to lead rookies in sacks or him as defensive rookie of the year to me would be a very intriguing play. We just talked about it. You got Bradley Chubb out for likely most of the year. You've got Jalen Phillips likely not going to be ready for week 1. Shaq Barrett's going to be on one side. You're going to have, Chop Robinson on the other. You got Zach Seiler in the middle. You got Calais Campbell in the middle. You got enough guys that he can really, this guy wearing a 4.5 40. He is an athletic freak. Yeah. I could really see him, getting some sacks in this defense that's going to be really needing some sacks. You got to imagine it's got to be a pretty juicy number for someone who, as far as defensive rookie of the year. So look out for that market when it becomes available. I really do like Chop Robinson. All right. What do we like for Miami side of the ball there?
Yeah, I as much as I've been supporting and giving love to Miami's offense, I really think they probably will take a slight step back in the passing game. So Tua has only hit this number 1 time, and that's 25.5 passing touchdowns.
Okay. Yeah.
He's only hit it 1 time. It was last year. But again, they're basically running everything back just with another year of age. Offensive line probably got a little bit weaker. We know how Tua's injury concerns have popped up in the past.
Yep.
Do they again? So there's a few different lines of thinking when it comes to this, but I really just think that Miami's offense, somebody's going to catch up to them, and once one or two defenses catch up to that scheme, I think Tua is going to have a little bit harder time. So I'm going to take his under passing touchdowns.
No, I like it. You always got an out with an injury there with Tua. We've seen him; he's prone to get those. And they also had 27 touchdowns on the ground. So, they could still put up a decent amount of points and him not hit that number there. I know he hit it last year, but I think he really he led the lead in passing. So I would almost expect him to have more with how many passing yards he has. So, it's obviously something that could definitely regress to the mean there. Anything else for the Dolphins?
That's it for the Dolphins.
All right.